even with your fashion critiquing, while it's very mean in some ways, people can't wait to hear what you have to say. Really? It's not mean?
It's not mean. I tell the truth.
Some interviews start smoothly, then flip in seconds. Faces tighten, voices shift, and suddenly the whole room feels wrong, awkward, celebrity interviews that quickly turned ugly. Dives into those exact moments when polite conversation snaps and the mask comes off. From chilled silence to heated clashes, these interviews unfold quickly, leaving viewers stunned and hosts scrambling to regain control. One moment you're expecting a harmless question, the next, a guest is walking out, shutting down, or firing back in a way no one saw coming. And it all starts with one unexpected spark. Want to see where it leads? Joan Rivers versus host. Joan Rivers' interview derailed the moment the host labelled her fashion critiques very mean, framing her trademark humour as cruelty. Rivers immediately bristled, pointing out that people love her sharp commentary and that she's built a decades-long career on making audiences laugh. Instead of shifting gears, the host doubled down, noting the fur coat on her book cover and hinting that animal rights activists would object. The accusation was so strong that it completely turned the conversation around. Rivers didn't hold back and replied, asking whether the host's shoes were made of leather and telling her to shut up every time she cut in the host, with each word heaped even more negativity, contending that Rivers was the one who had upset people. Eventually, Rivers lost her temper and declared that the whole interview had just been a series of attacks and that the interviewer was not fit to handle a comedian. Then she got up, said she was really going, and left. And if that wasn't uncomfortable enough, wait until you see what follows. Marriage drama walkout. This interview unraveled the moment a clip of Alice Cooper discussing rock star lifestyles aired, prompting the host to bring up Gene Simmons' long-publicized claim of sleeping with 5,000 women. What began as a casual reference quickly turned awkward when the host joked about Simmons being in traction. If the claim were true, Simmons attempted to deflect with humor, but the tension was already rising. Shannon Tweed, who was seated next to him, appeared to be very uncomfortable when the conversation kept returning to Gene's sexual history. Tweed, who was getting frustrated, burst out, accusing the host of setting her up and being the one who would not let the joke die. The host flatly refused to take the blame, but Tweed was in no mood for it. When tensions ran high, Tweed rose and left the scene, her unhappiness clearly evident. Actor walking out on personal question, this walkout stands out because of how quietly and suddenly it happened. The actor was in the middle of what seemed like a routine interview when the host shifted toward deeply personal territory, asking about his father, past trauma, dark periods, and struggles with substances and alcohol. The line of questioning grew increasingly intrusive, turning the conversation into something the actor clearly didn't expect or want to revisit. As the interviewer continued with his questions, the actor at last interrupted her, seemingly irritated and confused. "What are we doing?" His manner of speaking indicated that he regarded the situation as a surprise rather than a real conversation. When she, in her defense, remarked that she was just asking questions, he concluded that she had lost him. Without any shouting or any disturbances, he just got up, said bye, and left. The interviewer, who was taken aback, apologized to him as he was leaving, but the incident had already established its character. Gordon Ramsay confrontation. This tense exchange began when a reporter confronted Gordon Ramsay with a photo of a dry, flaky, terrible steak supposedly served at one of his restaurants. The interviewer claimed the staff shouldn't have allowed it to leave the kitchen, immediately putting Ramsay on the defensive. From the start, the chef questioned why the complaint wasn't raised at the time, clearly irritated by the ambush-style setup. The situation got out of hand when Ramsay found out that the customer wanted the steak made well done. He went straight to the point and said that all cuts cooked that way lose their flavor, and he termed the reporter's question a bit of a stupid question. He couldn't hide his irritation when the interviewer would not give in, and said the dish was unacceptable. Ramsay then decided to throw out the whole idea he was being interviewed about, claiming instead that it was an intelligent interview. At the end of the scene, the host was ashamed, while Ramsay was not impressed and left. Brian May interview. Breakdown. Brian May's interview began with an unusual level of honesty. He admitted he was exhausted and would not be doing this out of choice, but didn't want to disappoint the crew. His fatigue hung over the entire conversation, and it was clear he was trying to power through despite needing rest. That fragility set the stage for what followed. The interviewer then attempted to show May's reaction clips, expecting commentary, but the approach instantly irritated him. May snapped, questioning whether they wanted to discuss the show or waste time watching bits of tape. His patience, already thin, rapidly evaporated. While the host was attempting to clarify the matter, May reacted more strongly, labeling the arrangement as ridiculous and asserting that they only had a few minutes left. The gap in their views kept widening every moment. Birdman Radio Walkout. This walkout became legendary before the interview even began. Birdman entered the studio visibly angry, immediately telling the hosts to stop playing with my name and repeating the demand 3 times. His message was direct. He was tired of hearing disrespectful commentary about himself and wanted it addressed face to face. The tension was palpable from the first seconds Birdman, before the hosts had even gotten comfortable with the dialogue, gave them a fresh warning, demanding that they put some respect on his name and claiming he would not tolerate any further jokes or remarks made in passing. The hosts were trying to be nice and asked if he had the same attitude with other artists. Charlemagne, the god, took the fight to him by asking why he was confronting a radio host instead of Rick Ross or Trick Daddy, people like that. This was a question that crossed the line. Birdman cut it short. "You're finished, or you're done. I ain't got no more talking." Then he left. Travis Barker annoyed by stupid questions. Travis Barker's interview started casually, but it derailed the moment the reporter asked a vague, juvenile question. "What kind of stuff do you do for fun? You do anything weird?" Barker looked confused, almost amused, before giving a straightforward answer about his daily routine: waking up, going to breakfast, hitting the gym, and returning home. It was simple, honest, and clearly not what the interviewer was fishing for. The reporter once again put the question to Barker in a somewhat exaggerated way, but the latter remained adamant. As the questions became more trivial, his patience started to wear out. Rather than receiving a professional approach, he was being asked for catchy sound bites. Gary Coleman's explosive walkout. Gary Coleman's interview spiraled almost instantly once the host brought up accusations that he had abused his wife. Coleman insisted the claims were ridiculous, pointing out the size difference between them and saying people could believe what they wanted. But the interviewer pushed harder, demanding he flat out deny it on camera and accusing him of waffling, which only inflamed the situation further. Coleman's fury erupted when the interviewer persistently questioned him. "Did you abuse your wife?" He responded with an unprintable insult to the interviewer and turned down all attempts to trap him into an admission. He still did not want to talk when the interviewer brought up his wife's accusation against him of trying to drown her. Coleman's annoyance was at its highest when he was asked whether this anger had any connection with the alleged incident. He retorted that he did not care what happened next, as the interviewer was pushing his buttons. A few moments later, he stood up and left the room, insisting that he would not come back. Kourtney Kardashian silent non-answer. Kourtney Kardashian's walkout moment was unusual because she didn't actually walk out. She simply stopped engaging. During a live interview, the host gently asked how the family was coping after Kim Kardashian's traumatic robbery. It was a reasonable, sympathetic question, but Kourtney froze completely. Her expression stayed neutral, her gaze fixed, and she offered no response at all. The host was patient, made another attempt, and even posed the question of whether the connection was lost. No response, however. Courtney's silence was so oppressive that the interviewer started to make uncomfortable noises and asked the question if she was being blanked. The pressure built up to a level that was nearly unbearable to witness. Finally, she confessed that Courtney was probably having a PR person on hand who was advising her not to speak, yet she considered it could. Courtney had just uttered something short and sweet: "Keep your focus," because the interview that follows goes from calm to closed in seconds. Naomi Campbell, Blood Diamond, walkout. Naomi Campbell's interview fell apart the moment the host asked whether she had received a diamond from Charles Taylor Campbell immediately shut the question down, firmly saying she wasn't going to talk about it. The interviewer pushed on, asking if she had dinner with Taylor or if his men had delivered a large diamond to her, but Campbell refused to engage. With the persistent inquiries, her uneasiness slowly transformed into open exasperation. She pointed out to them that she had dinner with Nelson Mandela, not Taylor, and reiterated that she would not respond to any questions regarding the accusations. Her staff intervened, indicating that the dialogue had overstepped its bounds. In spite of the host's insistence that the queries were crucial, Campbell personally terminated the dialogue by getting up from her seat. With a terse, "Thank you very much," she exited, cutting off the interviewer who was still speaking and leaving the studio in a sudden hush. Selena Gomez. Interview turns tense. Selena Gomez's interview began light and relaxed until the host shifted the topic toward Justin Bieber. Instead of asking about her own work, he launched into a string of questions about Bieber's outrageous behavior and what the public supposedly didn't understand about him. The framing put Selena in an uncomfortable position, expected to explain or defend someone else's controversies. The interviewer persisted by saying there must be something about Bieber that people don't get, and this pushed Selena into a storyline that she obviously hadn't agreed to. The mood went from being amicable to being intrusive. The way she acted changed, showing how much she disliked the change in the topic of conversation. The tension escalated when the interviewer kept talking about Bieber's behavior instead of Selena's career or viewpoint. Although the transcript stops before her complete reply, the incident shows the precise moment when an interview turns from a simple curiosity to an intrusion. Thus, the guest is left visibly uncomfortable. Politician refuses to discuss gay rights. This interview went off the rails when the politician was asked directly whether she supported gay rights. Instead of answering, she immediately accused the host of being borderline rude, insisting the topic wasn't relevant to what she wanted to promote. She repeatedly claimed the answers were in the book, yet refused to clarify them on air, which only fueled the host's persistence. The tension escalated as the interviewer continued to press. The interviewer pointed out that her public statements had made the issue a topic. The politician maintained her position that she was not campaigning and would only tackle the financial and constitutional issues she had raised in her book, not social ones. When the host stated that it was not rude to inquire about her positions, she countered him even more forcefully by claiming that he did not respect her limitations. She then unexpectedly declared that she was being pulled away and exited the interview altogether. Machine Gun Kelly walkout. MGK's interview collapsed almost instantly, beginning with what should have been an easy question about fatherhood. Instead of opening up, he grew visibly annoyed, saying he'd done this so many times and didn't want to repeat anything he'd already said in the past. His tone made it clear he had no interest in giving another polished, press-friendly answer. The interviewer attempted to proceed with the conversation, but MGK interrupted him, claiming that he did not want to do an interview in the first place. He stated that he would rather let his music express him and that he had nothing to say, stressing that he had been explaining himself for many years and that he was exhausted. The conversation turned very tense, very fast. While the host was trying to recover from the situation, MGK leaned back in his chair. He didn't say anything else, just left, and the interviewer was left in shock while the set was awkwardly quiet. Paris Hilton walkout. Paris Hilton's interview, took a sharp turn when the host began comparing her to Kim Kardashian, asking whether newer stars had overshadowed her. Paris brushed it off calmly, but the host continued digging, bringing up reports of low ratings for her show. She stayed composed, answering each question with a short, firm no, but the shift in her expression made clear the conversation was wearing thin. The interviewer continued his line of questioning, asking if there were times she thought her moment had passed. That was the point where Paris had had enough. She did not get into a dispute or lose her temper. Instead, she just said, "You want to wrap up?" which was her way of signaling that she was no longer willing to continue discussing the matter. Nevertheless, the host wanted to try his luck with one more thing, and so he did in hopes of retrieving the moment. However, Paris, without a word, got up and left the place, thus leaving the interviewer hanging in his words and also very surprised. S Club 7 publicist halts interview. This interview with S Club 7 was moving along smoothly until the host brought up a sensitive rumor that the group was grumpy because they hadn't made a mint. The question landed awkwardly, but one of the members tried to answer graciously, saying they felt really lucky to have the success and bank balances they did at their age. It might have ended there if the publicist hadn't stepped in. The publicist of the band came on the set with a furious face and did not let the band continue their performance. She stated, "I'm not having that," and at the same time revealed that she had made an effort to stop the question beforehand. Her unexpected disruption surprised both the interviewer and the band. The host tried to get back on track by asking for only 5 minutes, but the publicist was very firm. With a short command, "We are going," she put an end to the interview by escorting the musicians out of the conversation. Kanye West versus Piers Morgan. Kanye West and Piers Morgan's first interview exploded almost immediately. As Morgan tried to press him on controversial comments, Kanye repeatedly interrupted, insisting he hadn't finished his sentences. Their exchange quickly devolved into overlapping shouting, Kanye snapping, "I ain't finished," Morgan firing back that nothing he was saying addressed the actual question. The tension hit a peak when Morgan called him boy, prompting Kanye to erupt and walk out mid-sentence. The second session turned out to be more tumultuous. Kanye accused the press of double standards, stating that they were playing his music in weddings and funerals on one hand and on the other. Being rude to him, Morgan resisted this, rather perplexed, and remarked that he had not made any statement yet. Kanye maintained that Morgan was avoiding the truth and attributed to him that he said one thing while Morgan had clearly said nothing. Prince on The View. Prince's rare appearance on The View was meant to be a light, exciting surprise for the audience. The hosts were thrilled, and the moment he walked on stage, the energy spiked. But the tone shifted instantly when Sherry Shepherd blurted out an overly personal, wildly inappropriate confession. "I have wanted to make love to you for my whole life." The audience laughed nervously, but Prince didn't. The comment was obviously inappropriate. Rather than treating him as a guest, the remark made him a joke, and Prince's discomfort was clearly visible. The other presenters attempted to patch things up, yet the harm was already done. Prince did not engage in a dispute or reproach. He just turned around and walked away silently. His leaving was peaceful but resolute. The Bee Gees' walkout. The Bee Gees' walkout remains one of the most iconic interview exits ever captured on camera. During what was supposed to be a light, friendly segment, the host instead opened with bizarre and condescending jabs, joking that he didn't realize they were real brothers and suggesting they were sisters. The tone immediately shifted from playful to uncomfortable. As the interview continued, the host kept pushing, calling them lessers and insisting they'd always be lessers to him. Even as the brothers tried to keep things civil, the tension became impossible to ignore. Their attempts at humor couldn't mask the growing frustration on both sides. After Barry Gibb had had enough, he quietly went out, saying, "I might as well just leave." His brothers were right behind him, and they walked out together as a sign of their unity against the unkindness of the host. The host was shocked, and he insisted that he had never had anyone walk out before. However, the host's mistake was already made. Get ready. Our top pick delivers a whole different kind of chaos. Bill O'Reilly. Heated debate on mosque. This heated clash began when Bill O'Reilly insisted that 70% of Americans opposed building a mosque near the site of a national tragedy. His guest pushed back, challenging his framing and trying to widen the conversation, but O'Reilly grew louder, repeating his point and talking over her. Tensions spiked when she noted that Muslims as a whole weren't responsible for the attacks, prompting O'Reilly to fire back. What religion were they? The blunt question shocked the panel and pushed the debate into full confrontation. The exchange ended in near chaos, one of O'Reilly's most volatile moments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed diving into these jaw-dropping interview moments, make sure to like the video, drop a comment on which moment shocked you the most, and subscribe for more wild celebrity breakdowns. And don't go anywhere, your next video is already waiting on the screen. Click it now and keep the chaos rolling.